When I say fast-paced cyberpunk first-person shooter roguelike, that is Deadlink, and if those words are enough to hook you in like they were for me, then I have no problem recommending Deadlink to you before you've even watched a minute of this video. Deadlink has graciously entered 1.0 while keeping the core mechanics that made me fall in love with this game in the first place, with a perfect blend of fast-paced gameplay and fluid movement and gunplay. I've already made a video on Deadlink, but it was one of my first ever with this whole YouTube thing, so let's give it another go now that Deadlink has entered its full release. Whenever I talk about first-person shooters, it's always going to be about the mechanics. How does it feel to move and shoot? Deadlink is one of those games that gets it right and can carry replayability on that merit alone, excluding everything else. But it's not just that it feels good to play, it's a game that makes you think about your decisions. It's in the same boat as Doom in the sense that, yeah, you can do a lot of damage and output mass destruction, but you can't do that all willy-nilly. You need to think about who you shoot, when you shoot, and what gun you use. Similarly to Doom as well, the arena and environment is as much a part of the battle as anything else, and is essential to success, which adds an extra layer to combat without complicating it. Take, for instance, these shiny smashable balls. They're called C-balls. They're not just there for you to break for ammo. Classes' abilities can also interact with them. For example, you can hook your grapple hook onto them and fly away. Combine that with your dash and movement abilities, and you've got a recipe for enthralling combat. A variety of enemies with their own attacks makes combat even more engaging, and while the first encounter with some of the crazier enemies might catch you off guard, you'll quickly fall back into the rhythm and flow of combat that is just so addicting. And that's a credit to the game's combat design overall. You can so easily get into a pattern of movements that is just so enjoyable, and no element of the game is out to ruin that pattern. Rather, they are there to add to it, to make it a bit more complex, and that's a good thing. Visually, the game looks great, and somewhere along the line they got rid of the annoying grain over the whole game that was forced during early access, but have also expanded the options menu greatly, including giving me the option to turn off anti-aliasing, which always makes me a happy man. The sound design is also on point, especially with some of the beefier guns, and if the sound design was the layer of icing, then the soundtrack is the cherry on top. The game has a cyberpunk theme, and so in turn you get some cyberpunk bangers. Okay, so let's go over what was actually added or changed in 1.0. There's an entirely new level to fight through, a new combat shell, a shitload of new weapons, and 11 new implants. And that's just to start. I mean, that's a pretty solid way to introduce your 1.0 patch notes. They've also added some interesting story elements, including NPCs scattered throughout your runs to talk to, one of whom has already given me an objective to go and complete. This stuff is always welcome, especially if it's executed well and comes with objectives, and here that seems to be the case. A personal favorite of mine is the reworked upgrade system. I love seeing progression systems like this given love, especially if it needed reworking, and according to the patch notes, it was reworked with community feedback and data in mind, which is just awesome, so you know you're getting the best version of this upgrade system that you possibly can. There's also a casino minigame that's been added into the run on top of some cool weapon inspect animations, and another favorite of mine, 70 achievements to collect. They've also done a ton of other balancing on the armor side and the weapon side, so you know that you're getting the best version out of this game that you possibly can in terms of balance, which is really, really nice in a fast-paced shooter. You definitely want it to be as balanced as it possibly can so that your skill shines through. I've been waiting for Deadlink 1.0 since it came out in early access. I've been incredibly excited to see what kind of content they could add to this game, and so far my playtime in 1.0 has not disappointed me. This game runs incredibly smooth, it's fun to play, and it feels like a really complete, polished experience. And if you're into roguelikes, if you're into first-person shooters, and if you kind of like games that are inspired by Doom, Quake, those kind of things, then I can just highly recommend Deadlink to you. When I initially got into Deadlink, I was entirely captured by the gameplay. That was enough replayability for me, just having fun, going through the levels, listening to the amazing soundtrack, and shooting a bunch of enemies. Now that there's more in the game, there's more content to get through, more upgrades, more replayability, I just can't wait to go and complete this game. And some of the achievements are quite hard, keep in mind, so if you're on that 100% grind, then it might take you a bit, but yeah, Deadlink is just, it's incredible. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch. Have a great day, and see you later.